If you roll back the clock in 2007 or 8, the challenge seemed insurmountable, right? How do you get digital identity, or how do you get financial inclusion or to a country where less than 50% of the people have birth certificates? So in that fragile system was known for corruption and known for extreme bureaucracy, to achieve 1 billion people registered with a digital identity in less than 5.5 years is phenomenal. Good leadership is about the tiny decisions as much as the big ones. The big ones could be, what do you call the project? You could go for a grand name, a fancy sounding name in English, maybe a nice acronym. But what the team went with was Aadhaar, which means foundation in multiple Indian languages. This had two effects. One, it could communicate directly to the many diverse people in India. It was a word that many of them would recognize in their native tongues and not just focuses on Hindi or some language in the south. Two, it also conveyed the idea of the ID very simply, that this is a foundation for all the benefits and all the services that the government is going to provide to you in the future. My Aadhaar, my identity, was sort of one of those decisions, big decisions that I think was one of the right ones. But also some of the smaller decisions around where to have your office. And while the default choice may have been Delhi, the tech team in Aadhaar chose to sit out of Bangalore, where the tech talent was, and the sort of collegial atmosphere and that they are used to in tech, and making sure that your employees are in that comfortable zone and performing to their best, even though it is sort of away from convention and away from the corridors of power. I think one of the biggest benefits of Aadhaar has simply been that people have begun to change their relationship with the government. The government in India has always been important because they provide benefits and welfare. So if you're really poor, you're dependent on the government not just for roads and water, but also food, right? Basic ration, basic food grains. Now the experience in getting that basic supply for each of these things had been mired with corruption. You had to bribe an officer to get what is rightfully owed to you. Benefit of Aadhaar was you were able to digitize the whole process end to end, and because you could digitize, you could sort of monitor service quality, delivery, and create a very different experience for the end user. I'll give you an example. If you and I were to go to our neighboring store and say, I want a bottle of Coke, and if that guy says, come back in 2 hours, you're just going to go to the next shop and buy that bottle of Coke. But when it comes to welfare delivery, the government usually had just one store, and if that guy says, come back tomorrow, come back in 2 hours, I don't want to sell it to you, you had no choice and you were denied that essential service of food, etc. But with Aadhaar, you got portability and choice. So you could go to any store in the country, authenticate yourself and say, give me the ration that I am owed. And this changed the structure of government delivery from a monopoly to an open market competition, right? And that really is the difference for the average citizen, that they can see the government becoming more responsive, more user friendly in some sense, caring more about whether the delivery has happened or not. One statistic that I heard on the ground is that whereas earlier it would take 10 months for shops to distribute the ration to the entire village, because there is competition now, the shopkeepers are offering services like home delivery, and the rations stock out in 1.5 days, and there is lesser corruption. So the government is not only saving money but also delivering a great experience to the citizens.